That way we can play it back for others who want to catch up on some of these discussions. We talk about updates and questions. First of all, thank you everyone for joining on the day after Labor Day. We had to move our normal Monday meeting.
Send me the link.
Send you the link?
Yes, send me the link.
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Hi, Allison.
Hello, I can't participate if you don't invite me.
I didn't invite her. That's not possible.
It's always the minor details. Always, always.
Just this one.
There we go. There was a thing in MSN this morning that the ruby slippers from...
Oh.
Did you see that? They had been lost for 13 years and then now they're found.
Ah.
Okay.
I thought you were telling me they sold at auction for like, $14 million or something.
Well, I think that's next.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they'd been lost. So there you go.
I didn't either.
All righty.
All right. Allison should be joining here in just a moment.
Go ahead and take this up.
All right. Here's my agenda. And again, not a whole lot of updates or new functions. So I've got a couple of items that I think have been causing some confusion and some discussion. So we're going to go through these, and then when we're done with these agenda items, we'll open it up to, just whatever questions you might have, like we normally have. So from an update perspective, on the clinical educators, there was a request for those institutions who are just getting ramped up and keying in a lot of clinical educators to make the training field non-mandatory, not required, even though from an audit standpoint it is required. But from just batch data entry of trying to get a lot of information into the system at one time, so we removed the requirement on the clinical educator training field and made it it is optional. So when you're keying in your clinical educators, where the red arrow shows where you have to add the training, that is no longer required. That's just a minor change, because when we go back and do an audit, we want to ensure that the SB1 and any other required training is in the system. That one's pretty straightforward. Let's talk a little bit about contact. Well, first of all, any questions on that one, on clinical educator training? All right. Moving on. Bullet number 2, contacts and permissions. These are 2 separate modules within KEPRS. And the contacts are all about getting information, and it's just information only. So EPSB is not required, and on the permissions you are required to have an EPSB ID, and it controls which users have what kind of access to the KEPRS modules. So let's take a look at this. You are looking at your contacts. The reason for this is to establish, at least for our reference, who are the the designated representatives for each one of these job roles. So there's various things and interactions that you might have with what used to be called the EPSB. It's now OELE. And all these different roles on here are, people who may be interacting with our office, and we need to know kind of who they are. So we ask you to keep this up to date, keep it current. It has nothing to do with the KEPRS applications and functions. However, in the permissions, which is a different module, when you go to permissions, this is how you control access and what kind of functions and applications your user community can get into. And this is something that you control. So when you go into permissions and you've keyed in the EPSB ID, that specific individual's rights come up on the screen. It lists each of the KEPRS applications, and then you can change their permissions by clicking on each one of these lines individually. And you can give them the admin rights, you can give them data entry rights, or just read only, or no right at all. So if they click on the assessments and they have no right, they'll get an error message saying you do not have permission to use this application. Make sense? Any questions on contacts versus permissions? Okay, bullet number 3. Oh, was there a question?
Rich, I have a quick question.
Yep.
I was wondering about the SB1, the previous one.
Yes.
Is the link now posted, or are we doing it with the link that goes up to 30? I mean, I think it's 13 minutes, 26 seconds, and then it starts.
Woo. You're giving me information I'm not aware of,
All right.
so I'll need to look into that. I know that
It's posted.
it is posted.
It's posted.
It's Margaret. It's posted. Yeah, they put it up. It was late Friday afternoon.
Okay. All right.
And it's it takes about an hour.
What's it posted on?
It's posted on EPSB's website, where the Senate Bill 1 training is.
Yeah, but isn't that the 2017 version? I didn't think that was the 2018 version.
Late Friday.
Well, that's okay. Strange.
Yeah, good. No,
In
no.
conversation with Eve this morning, she said she was waiting to hear from KDE before it got posted.
Oh, maybe I already did though.
So when I
Yeah,
looked
because I
at
saw it Saturday.
the one training video, and when you click on it, it's got an August 25th, 2017 date on it.
Well, the one that I downloaded was because I watched the live version, and it went to the same version because it had all of those people speaking.
If it helps,
And the
I just posted the link.
This version did. If you had it bookmarked, it takes you to the old one.
Ah.
Because that's what I kept doing.
Yeah,
I kept
I'm
clicking, and
accessing
it kept taking me
through
to the old one.
Yeah, no, I'm going to where it says Senate Bill 1 training video under information for educator preparation providers on the EPSB website inside the Division of Educator Preparation Assessment and Internship.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we'll follow up on that and find out, because that's either way, something weird's going on.
Allison?
Yes.
This is Chris. I just posted on the chat the only link that I've seen for SB1 training video. It's on the
on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. It's linked under the information for educator preparation providers, and it is 2017.
Yeah, I clicked on the link, and that's what I got.
Yep.
I got it pulled up right now.
Yeah.
So
Now, Rob,
I don't know where the current 2018 version was. I got the impression it hadn't been released yet.
there were two different things that were posted. One had a 2017 date listed on it, and it was wrong. In the communications that they sent out, in a top paragraph, it said 2017, which was the link. In the bottom part of the paragraph, they talked about it being 2018. So I don't know that they updated the date in the link.
Oh, okay.
But when I looked at the video and went through, it was the length of what I watched online, and it was all the people that were present on when you watched it live. Because the 2017 version of it was a really short version, and it didn't have all of those people.
Okay. I'm writing
And
an
the
email to Eve and have her follow up on
2017
that right now.
was up on Thursday.
Okay, thanks Manish. Thanks Margaret. We'll try to get an updated piece of information out to everybody on what's the status. Any other questions on the first two items? And then we'll move into the Kentucky Teacher Standards, which, by the way, the Kentucky Teacher Standards, KTS, are no longer valid. You should not be using those anymore when you do your course alignment or assessment alignment. You must always now align to the Kentucky Teacher Performance Standards, which are the in-task standards. So you may notice when you're working within KEPRS and you're doing your course alignment or assessment alignment that the KTS no longer appears in the drop-down as an option for a set of standards for you to align with. Bless you.
Thank you.
So, for example, here on the alignment or on the assessment, as you're keying in your assessments, when you get over to the alignment tab and you've picked a category, you'll typically see the KTPS will show up and the KTS will no longer appear.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
Do you guys have the new teacher leader model standards for the advanced programs, advanced cert?
The teacher leader model standards are there.
Okay. I thought they were. Okay, good. Are they teacher leader model standards or?
It's one set and there's a progression through that.
But is it model teacher leader standards or teacher leader model standards?
Teacher leader model
standards. Okay.
I can show you.
I've sent a copy of those to all of our instructors, so they've got them.
There they are.
Okay, good. And we're in the process of redoing the alignment with assessments and the new standards for our master's program, okay?
Yep. Okay, some of the questions that we frequently get is what's going on in the EPSB and the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness. And really, since our last meeting, not a whole lot has changed. There's been a lot of discussions about potentially reloading.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
Can you ask Allison or whoever it is to mute because we cannot hear you?
Oh.
We're getting major conversations.
I can do it from here. How about now? Can you hear me now?
We hear Eve or somebody. I don't know who it is. Somebody's playing the presentation. Somebody clicked on the link.
Yeah, I'm looking at all of my mute statuses. I've got everybody muted except for you and me right now.
Yeah. Somebody clicked the link. I'm playing it in the background.
Oh. Yeah, but I see what you're saying.
The YouTube video is playing somewhere.
I can't see any way to mute it. It looks like I've got everybody else muted right now. Can you still hear me all right? Are we okay to move on?
No, we hear it. Does everybody else hear that? Or is it just me?
I hear it way off in the background, but it's so distant, it's not impactful.
I don't hear it at all.
This is Jackie. I don't hear it at all, but I do have older ears than you.
All right, I'm going to try to push forward. in the chat room, if it's a problem, then let me know. In reference to the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness, about all the divisions, as far as I know right now, are basically going to remain intact and moved over to KDE, and potentially it means a physical move as well. We may be moving away from 100 Airport Road, if you're familiar with the facility that we're at today. We may be moving over to the Sauer Complex, which is on the bypass area, which is where the rest of KDE is housed. Some of that is contingent upon things like breaking the lease of the facility where we're at now. So the timing of that is not quite clear yet, but that may be something that we'll do over time. Here's another question that came up is, why are my responses missing? And so if you have gone in late at night or maybe over on a weekend, and the only thing we can think of, and I saw this last weekend in a great panic, because one of our institutions has spent an enormous amount of time and energy keying in their responses, and they have a lot of programs, and all of their responses were missing. The only thing we can think of is that there might have been a database reorg or realignment of how the servers were working, and there was a very, very long delay, and you would not see that necessarily in KEPRS. KEPRS would still work. It's thinking you're trying to pull up responses, and there's just nothing there for it to report. The good news is all of that data is still there. As of today, everything seems to be back to where it should be. All the responses are out there. But I do want to add a point of clarification around the responses. And when you're looking at the inventory and so forth, you may be impacted by the academic year. And we recently went past the magical date and time and hour for the academic year to officially switch over, which was September 1st. So as of this morning, what we did is we made a copy of all the work you may have been doing in the 17-18 academic year on your responses. We made a copy and we moved everything forward 1 year. So everything you may have done up to this point on responses is now in the 18-19 academic year. That way you don't have to cut and paste and do everything all over again. So if you were thinking, oh my goodness, you know, all that work I've done and everything is a new year, we simply copied everything forward. And so now when you go into your inventory, you'll need to select the academic year for which set of responses you want to look at. Now this may be a little bit confusing, so let me see if I can bring up.
Hey Rich, this is Jeanette. So if you already had stuff in 18-19 academic year, that's still going to be fine where it is?
Ruh-roh. What did you have in 18-19? And I do remember this.
Everything. I didn't even touch anything in 17-18 because I knew the program wouldn't be ready till 18-19.
Okay. AIU, correct?
Correct.
I may need to go back and recover your stuff, but we'll take a look.
Thanks.
I think the way Scott ran the utility is if there was an information logged in 17-18, he did an insert into the 18-19 list of responses. If you would take a look, maybe while we're here, I don't know if you have access to KEPRS right now, check your 18-19 responses and make sure they're all still there.
Okay, will do.
I just want to take a quick look here, just so everybody understands what it is that we're looking at on your inventory. This is a test database that we're looking at, so you're looking at information that kind of looks like University of Kentucky, UK. So if I pick their, initial undergrad traditional elementary program, there's my clinical educators, there are my courses, my assessments, my standards, my responses, and you'll see here the academic year. So if I pick a section, I want to look at clinical experiences for the 17-18 year, then my responses show up. If I go back a year to 16-17, the responses are not there because nobody keyed anything in for that academic year. If I go to the 18-19, okay, again, this is test, so we did not copy everything over. But that's how you would see the different academic years. And the reason we do this is to keep the responses and the integrity of that information by academic year. So, question came up this morning. If I'm currently working on my evidence and analysis, and my evidence and analysis is from the previous year or perhaps the previous 2 or 3 years, wouldn't I want to go back and key that into the previous year? And the answer is no. You want to keep it in the 18-19 academic year because this is how you show where your analysis is impacting your continuous improvement. So if I'm doing my evidence and analysis, I want to be working in the current academic year. At least this is where I would view my answers. If I go back to responses, where I'm keying in responses, you will notice when responses come up, there is no selection of academic year. The reason for that is it will default to the current academic year. So if I'm doing chemistry and I'm looking at traditional and I'm looking at my evidence and analysis, I say get questions. These questions and what I save here for evidence and analysis will be saved under the 18-19 academic year. Any questions? Okay, well at this point I think I'm kind of done with what I had prepared in terms of items that I wanted to touch upon and questions that we were hearing. I guess I will unmute everybody and ask if you have any questions.
Rich, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
You said that the information was moved from the previous year to the current year. So the current year will contain the the previous year's information, or do we have to type it in again?
Oh, no, it's all been copied forward. That was my whole point. Everything for the 17-18 academic year has been copied forward to the 18-19 academic year. Everything in responses. Now, if you want to go back to the IHE EPP profile, that's different. That you'll need to copy forward yourself.
So all we have to do is just go back and copy and paste. If nothing has changed, we can just go back to the previous year, copy and paste it just by copy paste.
Exactly.
All right.
Good question. Thank you.
So Rich, this is Jeanette. It looks like all my stuff is still there, but it's just popping up automatically now.
Okay. Yeah, because it's the 18-19 year.
Right. I was just afraid something would have been copied over it or something.
Yep. No. You panicked me as well because I know we did this copy and I'm thinking, oh no, hope we didn't wipe anything out. But it would only have copied if there was a line entry in the previous year. So we're good. Thank you.
I'm going to sign out, guys. This is Sue.
Thanks, Sue.
See you next time.
See ya.
Thank you so much, Rich. And
Yeah,
friends. This is
absolutely.
Kathy. You have a blessed rest of the week. Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
I'll hang on for a few minutes if anybody wants to ask a question. I'll just be here.
Hey, Rich, it's Jeanette. I just have one.
Yeah.
And it may be I need to write Allison. I don't know if she's still on the call, but I got my feedback, and one of the things that it said was I didn't have all the information about my clinical educators, which is, I'm assuming, faculty.
Yep.
And I go in and I filled in every box. So I'm also not sure at the time they were looking at 2018. And I reminded them to look in 2018, 2019. But I don't know if that means they have to review everything again from scratch.
No,
Or if I am missing something in clinical in the.
no, your clinical educators are not tied to an academic year. So they are what they are.
Okay.
So I would think that might be a discussion you need to have with Allison as to, you know,
What's missing?
specifics about what is missing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your help as always.
Yeah. And people are dropping off. I'll stay on here just in case somebody's got a question.
I just have a quick one, Rich. So for deadline, in terms of deadlines, right now, the one is for SB1 to enter the data into KEPRS, correct? Is that the only deadline for October right now, or are there other things that we're looking into?
That was the only targeted deadline
Okay.
for specific data. The other one was for all EPPs to be in the KEPRS system by the end of 2019.
All right. Yeah, that we're working on. And we're in fact, we're in the process of adding syllabi. I don't know. I mean, things will change because of the changes in KTPS and all those things, but
Yep.
I'll check back with you about the other stuff. But that's all I wanted to make sure that we're on track with that, and we are.
Okay. I do see another question here that is EPSB morphing into OELE, or does it remain intact and just falls under OELE? Well, OELE is just the new name for what was the EPSB, and the reporting structure is a little bit different because we now have become an office rather than an agency, and the office now reports under KDE. We still have a board. So the board has the authority to impact our operations and our focus and the things that we do and our priorities. We still have a board. I hope that answers your question. Okay. In the absence of questions, I will go ahead and end the meeting. And once again, thanks everyone for attending. Appreciate everyone's time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
You bet.